Yeah, Russia and Iran, you're talking about the role of Russia and Iran and the connection with Iran, with Russia and China and the connection with Hamas and Iran. They have a strong connections. Hamas has a delegation actually in Moscow, basically that close the relationship are between Hamas and Russia. Look, the Russian and the Iranians, and we saw that, have created some sort of like what we call an alliance of, or an axis of evil. We saw that in the story of Syria, when the two basically were supporting Assad regime to survive the war. We saw the relationship between Russia and Iran in the context of the war in Ukraine. The Iranians are supporting the Russians in the war, and we saw that in the context of developing relationship with Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and other organizations. But it's interesting to see today, right now, as we are 1 month into the war, that basically, relatively speaking, the major international player in the whole story is the United States of America. Russia and China, to a large extent, are on the sideline of this whole story, and this is something very interesting because China was in a momentum of increasing its power and presence in the Middle East, and basically what happened right at the expense of the United States of America, the recent manifestation of that was the Saudi-Iranian agreement that was brokered by China. But right now what we see in the context of China is that actually they kind of like left on the side, and Russia is also on the sideline. And it's interesting also to see that China basically has been doing some sort of like belly dancing during the war. They started with a very firm anti-Israeli position, but in course of time they basically swift a little bit their position. They're kind of like trying now to be more and more balanced, even showing some understanding to the Israeli side of the story, because at this point I think that the Chinese are kind of like doing a damage control assessment. And it's interesting to see that development in the context of the power play, sort of speaking, between major players like the United States of America, Russia, China in the Middle East. And this is very interesting development in that sense. In that sense, the United States of America, as of now, can mark itself a very significant point in the power struggle against Russia and China in the Middle East, because the United States of America at this point, because of the very decisive message of President Biden to Iran and Hezbollah to stay out from the war, and a message that is backed by a massive military deployment, basically the United States of America has been rehabilitating its declining image as the leading superpower. It has been able to rehabilitate the projection of power that was significantly eroded for the last couple of years. We saw in the last couple of years how regional factors are basically moving away from the United States in America, viewing the United States of America as a declining force because it failed to project power. The war right now provided the United States of America an interesting opportunity to rehabilitate its power, rehabilitate its projection of power, and I think that the United States of America took advantage of the opportunity.